favourite episode from season 2 is episode 5, The Ghost of Harrenhal. You have this, I mean, I just love every scene that Arya and Tywin are in. I mean, the chemistry between them is just electric, especially when you start to think that he's figuring out where she's come from. I think it's in that episode that he kind of susses that she's a northerner, but he doesn't quite put 2 and 2 together. Obviously, you get the creepy inky vagina baby kills Renly, which sort of really ramps up the tension for the rest of the season, so it's really fun.
My favourite episode from Game of Thrones season 2 is episode 9, Blackwater. The penultimate episodes are often these kind of big epic ones to kind of get you excited, I suppose, for like the culmination of the plotting so far and then kind of leading you into the next series. And this one was one time where it really felt epic and it really felt like it sort of film quality almost, like it didn't feel like it was apologising for being a TV show at all. And also it was nice to get to see Tyrion being a bit resourceful on the battlefield, even if it went a bit unappreciated.
Season 2, my favourite was episode 8, The Prince of Winterfell. And really, it's just for one thing, and that's Arya. Like, at this point, I sort of thought all the Stark kids, except for Robb, were pretty annoying. But Arya in this one, you sort of think, oh my god, she is as cunning as they come. She is going to be something big, because it's this amazing scene she has with Jaqen where he's promised to end 3 lives for her in repayment of her saving his life. So she asks him, instead of killing someone for the last one, can you help us escape? To which he replies, no, that's more than I owe you. So then she names him as the final person. And obviously that would mean that he would have to kill himself. So then he throws himself at her mercy and says, okay, fine, you don't have to kill yourself, but you have to help us escape instead. So it just, I don't know, for me that just shows that Arya has got a lot more going on that we know about. And yeah, I'm assuming that's going to be something huge later on.
My favourite episode of Game of Thrones Season 2 has got to be episode 4, which is called Game of Bones. I think it was the first episode where the show really kind of hung its fantasy leanings on its sleeve and really embraced that. All I will say is vagina, smoke, monster.
My favourite episode of Game of Thrones Season 2 is episode 10, and that is Valar Morghulis. I think I've pronounced that right. And we find out in Season 3 that that phrase means all men must die, which is kind of a good phrase for the show. But we don't quite know how significant that phrase actually is. We will do for people who have read the books. The reason I love this one is because it's such a significant episode for Arya. One of the best things about this episode actually is how well it adapts the book, because the sequence in Harrenhal, it's actually quite long in the book, and they've cut it right down without losing any of the essence of it, because it's really significant for Arya. And yeah, just a very, very cool episode. And after the shocks of episode 9, all episode 9s are shocking in Game of Thrones, as we know. But yeah, it's a quieter episode, but it ends on such a huge cliffhanger.
So my favourite episode in Series 2 is episode 6, The Old Gods and the New. For me, one of the most interesting characters in Game of Thrones is Theon. And in this episode, we see him come completely undone when he ends up chopping some bloke's head off. It's just a horrendous 5 minutes where you see a man who still has a glimmer of hope just completely ruin his chances of ever getting out of this in one piece.
I'm going to cheat a bit with my favourite episode from Season 2. It's actually 2 episodes. It's episode 5, which is The Ghost of Harrenhal, and episode 6, The Old Gods and the New. I'm basically picking out a thread from this, and this is the meeting between Arya, one of the Starks, who's on the run, and Tywin Lannister, who's kind of, in a way, the sort of the big bad, the puppet master of the show in many ways. And these scenes aren't in the book, which I think makes it all the more kind of enjoyable for people who have read the books to find that they kind of made this contrivance to get these 2 characters together, and the relationship that sparks between them. I mean, under different circumstances, they'd be absolute mortal enemies. And she despises him. She wants to kill him, but they do form this kind of camaraderie, and it's quite sweet to watch. So it's very nice, and they play it beautifully as well, I think. Charles Dance as Tywin, you sort of see a little kind of chink in his armour, but there's a slight sort of warmth beneath all the cold, that he does kind of mentor this girl and takes her under his wing. He's impressed by her, and I think she starts to become a bit ambivalent about him as well, because on the one hand it's someone she absolutely despises. She's going to spend the rest of her days wanting to kill him, but at the same time I think she kind of learns from him as well and absorbs stuff from him. She's very watchful and takes things on board that he says, and it's just a lovely played relationship, and it's quite a sort of nice quiet moment as well, which I think Thrones does so well, just chatting in dark rooms, as well as all the beheadings and nudity.